up the stairs, and the two offenders came around the stairs and down the stairs towards me. That was the only way for them to get out of the house, past me. I produced my .45 semi-automatic pistol and told them to put their hands up in the air, and the one closest to me reached up and grabbed the barrel of my gun. As he did that, I pulled him towards me, grabbed him by the throat, but he had a free hand. In that free hand, he had a knife that I never noticed as he was coming down the stairs. And I never noticed it in spite of the fact that I was looking consciously for a weapon in the hands of both of the two offenders as they came down the stairs. Probably my own fault. I never saw the knife.
I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It happened so fast that this subject was supposed to be dead, and now, a second later, I find out not only is he alive, but he's trying to kill me. And when he flashed that knife in front of my face, it was instantaneous fear. It was terror. It was terrifying. And then when he cut my wrist, I really didn't feel that much pain in the wrist, but it was just a shock to look down and see, and it looked like your hand was just hanging there.
Just before the emotionally disturbed female stabbed my partner to death, he didn't have a chance to go for his gun. It happened too quick. We were unprepared.
You show me a cop that doesn't take a knife seriously, and I'll show you a cop that's never been cut.
Getting cut happens in one of two ways. One is a stabbing motion, usually meant to kill, which causes the weapon to puncture tissue, producing internal bleeding and destruction not visible from the outside. Death can result with a penetration of less than 1 inch in some locations. Since a relatively small amount of skin is damaged typically, blood showing from a wound may be slight because of the pressure exerted on the wound by surrounding tissue. Movement during the attack may make the wound larger and more serious before the blade is pulled out. The other way you get cut is a slashing motion, usually meant to disable you. The attacker can direct the blade to achieve deep cuts. Some edged weapons are even capable of amputating an arm. Slashes can also cause long cuts. The extensive severing of arteries and veins may release a lot of blood. Knife attacks are seldom static. They are usually dynamic with multiple redirected strikes, inflicting multiple stabs and slashes, and sometimes unanticipated reactions.
And they were female college students, late teenagers, and I didn't feel particularly threatened by them. Now, I'm not sure whether it was a male or female or who it was or where it was that the knife came from, but we've always suspected it was probably one of those girls in the front ranks that did it. And I think that what made me drop my guard was the fact that I had the combatant, I had the belligerent guy, and I had him handcuffed and I had him under control. He wasn't going anywhere. And I was so concerned with dealing with him, I wasn't thinking of these teenage kids as much of a threat.
I talked to my partner after the situation. He told me that he, in fact, thought that the suspect was going to punch him, that he was watching the suspect's eyes and didn't relate or didn't move to the fact that he was going behind his back. He thought he was going to get punched and was bracing himself for the punch to react to that, and didn't realize the fact that he was stabbed.
I really have no awareness over the years of any thought that I may have given to what it might feel like to be stabbed. But as the primary offender and I wrestled, he with a hold of the barrel of my .45 pistol, and me with a handful of his throat with my left hand. Of course, his right hand was free, and I remember that it was over my shoulder. He was right in here on top of me, and it was over my left shoulder. And I remember a burning sensation in my back, but I wasn't aware that he had stabbed me until we wrestled around and wound up on the floor with him under me and me on top of him. And I began to notice that everything was turning red under me. I was bleeding quite badly from the 2 puncture wounds in my back. And he was the one that had the blood all over him, and for just a moment I thought it was him that was hurt and not me.
The place that she cut me was on the left forearm, and I saw the knife as it was cutting my skin, and I saw the blood as the blood was coming out. And the sight of the blood and the pain, it was very painful, made me, my heart just stopped. I had no feelings as far as you know, no emotion, but my thoughts were, you know, I was thinking, get away, you know, this hurts, this is very painful, but I couldn't. It was like somebody was on top of me or something was stopping me. I couldn't move, but yet I could still see her. She cut the forearm and then proceeded, the knife went then into the bicep and cut very deeply into my bicep. I could see it gashing open. I could see the meat. I could see the muscle of my bicep. And the blood, there was a lot of blood. And the only thing I could think of was, you know, get away. And she swung again, and this time getting the right forearm, much larger cut than the first time on the other forearm. And then I saw the knife go into the right bicep. And this was even deeper cut than the other side also. And I could see the tendon in my arm.
In a split second, he just reached down and produced a 13.5-inch butcher knife and just flashed it right across my face. He slashed my left wrist. At that point, it was horrifying. I saw it look like my hand was just hanging there, and it was just terror. I was scared to death. And the one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to get away from him. I wanted to put some distance between us. So when I turned around to try to get out of that shed, he just literally exploded off of that garden tractor, and he grabbed a hold of the back of my jacket. Well, when he grabbed a hold of the back of my jacket, he continued to stab me as I was running, trying to get him off of my back. He stabbed me in my right shoulder, where he cut through the rotator cuff in my shoulder. He then stabbed me in my left shoulder. He stabbed me right through the center of my back, which went all the way through my uniform and the body armor. I continued to run, just trying to get him off of my back. And then he stabbed me the last time in the left side of my chest, which that one collapsed my lung. That was devastating. That was just, it's hard to describe just how bad that hurt. He collapsed my lung. I couldn't breathe. I finally was able to get my gun out of my holster and just put it over my shoulder and fire. I knew that I just had to get him off of my back. I thought that that was the only way that I was going to survive this. I wasn't able to shoot him. I shot him in the side of the neck and the chest area. He fell off of my back. I staggered probably another 10 feet where I fell into the arms of my partner, face first into the ground, where I wound up just lying there.
The older brother took a utility knife, just a little 1.5-inch long blade, out of his pocket and tried to slash my throat. He wanted to cut my throat. And I saw it coming out of the corner of my eye, not realizing it was a knife. I just saw a movement and blocked it, and it cut from my nose here all the way across under the nose and filleted my entire face open all the way down to my neck area here. It took about 80-some stitches to close the wound. I almost died from a loss of blood and had to go through a series of operations and microsurgery to get me back to normal. I spent 2 weeks on a life support system. But odd things. It was cold, of course, being November. When he hit me, the pressure of the punch and the shock of the punch, and also the blade, the direction that it traveled, cut my nerve. So I didn't feel any pain. Didn't know I was cut.
Unlike the Hollywood depiction of the single telegraphed strike, most edged weapon attacks against police are much less predictable and involve subjects whose behavior may not be so obvious. You're safest to treat any call as having some potential for an edged weapon attack. But realize that certain situations tend to carry great risk. For example, in making a traffic stop, a lack of caution in contacting the driver may bring you within range of common cutting weapons.
Hi there. Say, do you have a driver's license? You just rolled through that stop sign back there.
And your partner may not even be in a position initially to help you or even see any threat.
He's here somewhere.
No problem. Something with your photo, name on it, that'll be fine.